Hi, I'm Eric Ostro. Live at the Lortel is about to start. For Season 2, While Theaters Are Dark, we are discussing with our guests their thoughts on the reckoning the theater community is facing for systemic racism and their vision for the future of the American theater. To broaden our perspective, I am sharing my platform with co-hosts from the BIPOC community. We offer these conversations to help us learn and to start the healing process. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Live at the Lortel. My name is Eric Ostro. We have a very exciting show for you this evening. Welcome to May, AAPI Heritage Month. This month, the Lortel is uplifting AAPI companies and their programs through our social media. So please follow us on Instagram at Lortel-Theater or on Facebook or Twitter to hear all about these wonderful companies and their amazing work. Tonight, I'm going to mention just a few of these programs. First, Ma Yi will be presenting a reading of Once Upon a Korean Time on May 20th through 23rd. Tickets can be purchased at MA-YITHE-ATRE.org, mayith-eater.org, and on Wednesdays from 6 to 6:30 live. And in color, we'll be presenting a new series, Be Our Guest, a virtual happy hour with industry pros. May 5th will be leaders of the movement, Diane Phelan and Albert Gerzon from Racism is a Virus campaign, and Nandita Shenoy and Angel Desai from Asian American Performers Action Coalition. The show will also include a performance by Mark De La Cruz from Hamilton and Shobha Narayan, Natasha Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812. And this Friday on the Lortel Theater, Instagram at Lortel Theater, we will have an IG Instagram Live with Jason Ma being hosted by Viet Vo. Now to the show. I would like to bring on my incredible co-host and my very dear friend, Joy DeMichelle. Joy, come on up. Hi. Hi, my darling. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Fantastic.
Can you hear me now?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited. You got to keep me calm because I'm going to fangirl a little bit.
Okay,
I am an enormous. Okay, but we're both enormous fans of this artist. Let me just do a little intro. Charlayne Woodard was one of the original cast members in the Tony Award-winning musical Amos Behaven, and in 2009 starred in a one-person performance called The Night Watcher at Primary Stages in New York City. In 2011, this production came to the Kirk Douglas Theater, and her performance won the LA Drama Critics Circle Award for a solo performance. She has written 4 plays titled Pretty Fire, Neat in Real Life, and she starred in And Flight. Many theater and movies and TV. I just want to bring this guest on. I'm so excited to have her. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Charlayne Woodard. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming. You are been on the top of my list to have on this show since we started, Miss, and I can't begin to tell you what a huge fan I am of your work and your artistry.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. We always start off. How are you? We've had quite a year, almost, what are we going on, 18 months, pandemic, Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, coronavirus. I mean, we're in it.
Yes.
How are you?
It's been an incredible year. It's been unbelievable, actually. And the word I have to use that has been used ever since our ex-president was elected is unprecedented. Everything. Nothing is as it was. Everything. The good thing is that so much has been exposed.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And just
This
so
is
much
right.
has been exposed. The things that we all knew, now the world knows.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's actually been a devastating year. But what I do love is that a light has been shined on a lot of wrong,
Yes. Yes.
and it's undeniable now. And this is what I that's the takeaway I have from it that makes it's a fine thing. In order to get to the light, you have to go through the fire.
Hmm.
And that's what's happening.
And there's
What
no
do you
turning back
do?
now.
There's no turning back. I certainly hope not.
No.
You know, I certainly
No.
hope not. The events of the past month has been devastating. And but we carry on. We march on. And the main thing is, I think everyone understands now what it means when we say Black Lives Matter.
During this time, every day can be a challenge. Waking up and there's something new on the news.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to take care of yourself, to make it not be so overwhelming, to allow, not to allow racial trauma to be a part of your norm every day?
Well, what happened for me, one of the things that I did, well, when George Floyd was first killed, I was asked to teach at USC. And normally when I'm at USC, I do solo, when I teach, it's solo performance. But this was like spur of the moment. They just said, Charlayne, can you teach this semester online? And I said, yes, but I would like to teach a course that I'm making up as we go along called The Artists in Social Change. And this was for the first and second year MFAs. And I found digging into our past, dealing with our reading material, watching the news every day, and having this forum. I wanted them to talk. I wanted us to have conversation. I wanted, communication is very important. And every single day I was preparing for these classes twice a week. 3-hour class, 2-hour class. And I can't tell you how it felt really, really gratifying. Because we go back into the past. We explored James Baldwin and his debate with William F. Buckley in England. We explored. We had Roger Grenville Smith come and join the class and just share what it was like for him to write the plays he wrote and what made him, because he was an activist. He's an activist, he's an artist who's about social change. And we had people come in, and because it's online, we could invite people from all over the country.
Right.
Well, that was a really great thing. I did that last semester, and it took care of me. And now here we are. And this past semester, I've been finding myself desperately needing meditation just to get out of the bed. Serious meditation. Just to get out of the bed and remind myself that as bad as it sounds, as bad as it looks, it's in us to carry on. Mm-hmm. It's in us to seek the change that we deserve. So I've been doing that, and cardio helps a whole lot. I have a treadmill. I bought a treadmill at the beginning of the pandemic, so you get that serotonin level up there. And I've always been an exercise person anyway. But
it helps.
Yeah, it really does help to just run it off. Run it off, but we can't just. If I just sat back, I would be like so many of my friends that said, I'm just not watching the television, or I'm not being a part of it. I said, well, that's a luxury. that you have. That you don't have to pay attention. You don't have to take it in, you take it in. You're traumatized every day. And then you work it out. Because I don't care how bad it is. It's not as bad as it was for my grandmother and my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's not as bad as it was for my mom and my dad. It's a shame that it's this bad for us.
Right.
But
speaking of which, your grandmother, I've been doing a lot of research on you the past week, listening to every interview you've ever done and reading anything I possibly can, going through your plays. Your grandmother had a big influence on your life and your work.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I had 2 grandmothers.
Mm-hmm.
One was a feisty one, and the other was an easy and lovely one. One taught me, stand up and make a noise and be seen and, make them speak. She was like that. And then there was another one that said, oh, I would love for you to sing before I die, sing in the choir at church. And so that one started me off in the business. Oh, safety alert, I'm sorry.
It's okay. We'll edit that out. Don't worry,
I have
darling.
the same alert that went off on my phone as well.
Don't worry. It's all good.
Yes, but so I had 2. One took had the smooth, easy way of doing it. That's the grandmother from Mississippi. And then there was the grandmother from Savannah, Georgia, who was like, get 'em, get 'em, get 'em.
Mm-hmm.
Stand up, make a noise.
You were very fortunate to have that grandmother in your life. And I know young people are very important to you. I've heard you talk about your numerous godchildren and nieces and nephews. So for those young people who don't have that auntie or don't have that grandmother or that mother to be an anchor for them, what words of encouragement and hope can you share with them today?
You're saying, what can I share with the children, the young people who don't have the family that I have, who don't have that village?
Yes.
We have a lot of students who listen and watch. And,
I say form your village. There's the family we're born into, and then there's the family that we create for ourselves. And I've had to create a family for myself because my family lives in Albany, New York. But in my business, in my everyday life, you want to be supported with empathy and compassion and love and that kind of support where people believe in what you're doing. And so I have this thing where I say, perfect relationships are now coming to me easily and effortlessly. And that's an affirmation that I give myself because I need no success happens on our own. And I don't mean success in the business, I mean just the success of getting through a day without slitting your wrist, or without, and also, so that's what I would say is look for your tribe. Look for your family. And you can, I know for me, the way I found it is I've always been in class. I'm always in class. Even though I went to conservatory, as soon as I got out, I started studying in New York, near Rostova and Geraldine Barron at the Actors Studio. I'm now studying with Salome Jens. Whenever I can, I'm in scene study. We've been doing it for a year online, actually. But even in classes, that's where you can find your like-minded people because they share the passion for our work. And I also have always had a dog, which brings me outside. I'm outside of my house 4 times a day with a little dog. And I've always had them since I came out of school. And it gives me another group of people to choose from. And I trust that God is going to order my steps, and I choose wisely. And when I don't, I know that wasn't a wise choice, and I get rid of it. But perfect relationships are now coming to me easily and effortlessly. effortlessly. And it's an amazing what the power of an affirmation can do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it actually just really guides you towards what you need and what you want.
I agree. I'd love to go back a little bit to your first big experience, which you kind of exploded onto the scene. And I'd love to talk about Ain't Misbehaving a little bit. You know, I went back.
Ain't was such a big thing in my life. I wrote a play about it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I just recently, you know, found everything I possibly could on YouTube and watched it again. Watched everything I could. You and Nell and Andre and that incredible cast.
Amelia McQueen and Ken
Yeah.
Payne.
Oh, such talent. And you have this story that I'd love for you to tell about. You went up to that icon, Mr. DeShields, and said, you know the story. I'm going to ask you, but please go ahead and tell it.
In
Please.
rehearsals, I had 3 weeks to pull that show together.
Right. So because you came, Irene Cara left and you came in.
They started it at Manhattan Theater Club. And then when they moved to Broadway, I replaced Irene Cara. And, even, you know, school is 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. But there was nothing in my life to compare to the 3 weeks I had to get that, to fit into that show. And to work with those people who were like, you know, I said to him, I came up to Andre and I said, you know, and the music, I had to do research on who is Fats Waller and all this kind of music. I had to sing differently because all I'd done previously was sing in church. It wasn't that style at all. And I watched all these movies and everything. I'm trying to marry the project because it did happen so quickly. And I asked Andre one day, DeShields, I called him DeShields. Do you think we're going to be a hit? Do you think we're going to, he said, darling, we are a hit. We are already hit, and don't fuck it up.
He was just on 2 weeks ago. And,
they laid it on me. Dude, we had a hit. Now, we don't know where you come with all these little technique of an actor and warming up. I had these warm-ups. Nell Carter used to say, you better save your voice and quit that warming up. I mean, it was really outrageous. And for rehearsals, they would walk into rehearsal and you know, looking wonderful in their street clothes. And I would change into some rehearsal outfit because I'm trying to find the woman that's going to fit with those 4 people. And they were like, who is this acting student? What's going on here? You know, but I came to that musical with the tools that I had been working with, had been taught. So, and I must say, they saved me. Because in my school didn't prepare you for musical theater, but we did have the Arthur Lesac training and voice training.
But it's interesting to me. You tell the story about how you waited a few weeks before you asked if you can wait a few weeks to do, and you wanted to prepare your song. You have that big song,
I told
Keeping
them,
Out of Mischief. Yeah. And
I told them that I am an actor. I'm going to create the lady who sings and dances because I don't. And so we could, I'll start the dancing now. That has to get into my system. But I said, the song I will rehearse in 2 weeks, because I won't be ready to sing that for 2 weeks. And so they were like, I couldn't rehearse it. And then finally they took me into a room with my beloved Luther Henderson and Arthur Faria, Richard Maltby, who always believed in me, even though I didn't believe in myself. And we all sat there, and I was so nervous to sing that Keeping Out of Mischief now and figuring out what's the story. I'm trying to figure out what's the story that I'm telling. I said, Luther, I'm just going to sit here on the bench next to you, okay? Because then I'll feel much better. And, Luther Henderson, God bless his soul. And he says, yeah, sure, Charlayne, you just sit right here and we'll just potchki along. And so we started in this really rubato, don't even go to a movie show at room with you. And we were just feeling it out and feeling it out. And then he changed the key, and Arthur says, move center stage, and I move center, and as the song builds, I'm building in I guess confidence or something. I hear it, I feel it, and finally I could sing that song as long as I started with Luther, and I learned a lot about singing. You don't sing alone either. I learned there I really needed every note Luther played, every note from the trumpet, I had to hear everything to help boost me to the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. I treated the song as if it was a monologue.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, what is your approach to creating a character? Because you've developed so many wonderful solo shows and so many wonderful characters in your shows. What is your approach to developing a character?
Well, in my shows, generally, they are autobiographical. The 4 plays that you've seen are autobiographical. So I know those people. So it's not about building those. But the thing I love, I think more than anything, is working in other people's plays and creating new work. I love working with new writers, because the new writers are really taking risks. Jeremy O. Harris and with Susan Laurie Parks.
Yeah.
When I was in the room with her, and this character, Esther La Negrita. It was when I first read the script. George C. Wolfe sent me the script, and I was working in La Jolla at the time. I went to Del Mar to read it out on the porch, beautiful, looking at the sea and restaurant. And then I got into my car to go back to the theater, and I had an anxiety attack in the car along the highway. This residual feeling from reading in the blood. And I was about to go and call George and say, absolutely not. It's ridiculous. I cannot do this. And I had to get out of the car, walk around to the side of the car, vomit, have this major breakdown, get back in the car. I got to the theater. I called George and said, I'll do it. It's such a visceral reaction. And I only read it. Wow. And then, back then, to originate a role at the public, 6 weeks. 6 glorious weeks and 3 weeks of previews. So there I was, finding her. And what I did, I remember after about 2, the main thing I wanted to do was find her just with my kids. I wanted to start with, I'm the mother of 5 kids. So what is it? The exploration every day in rehearsal was, who are these babies, and where'd they come from, and how do I love them? How much do I love them? And I remember George came into rehearsal one day and he says, what is this love fest? I said, right. That's right, because this is a certain kind of mother, and she's got it tough up under that bridge. So, so bit by bit. And then I went looking for her in the neighborhood, and I found this woman that lived in an abandoned storefront. And I came to, after I watched that woman for about 2 weeks, and she saw me pass at the same time, and I offered her a sandwich. And she told me, get out of my face. Just like that. She gave me a lot when she said, get out of my face.
I bet.
Things, and then I kept looking. It was like, I wanted her to come from the inside. And at one point, after 2 weeks of rehearsal, Susan Laurie jumped up and says, Esther Negrita does not speak like you, Charlayne. And I told her, no, she does not. But I'm not going to just throw a dialect on this illiterate, uneducated woman. I'm not going to just choose. She's going to come and she's going to speak the way she speaks. And I trust that. And sure enough, she had a way of speaking that, it wasn't like it wasn't my speech patterns. It wasn't the way I speak. It wasn't even my voice, but I didn't like to plan it. I go looking for it and trying things. Rehearsal is to try things and to explore and to take risks. So bit by bit, I had to create a relationship with all 5 of the kids, my friends, Gail, great, Dee Dee. Oh, Dee Dee. It was a great cast. And, it was all about, my wonderful Reggie Montgomery. The last play that Reggie Montgomery did, it was the 3rd time I had worked with my brother. And so it was a very difficult journey, but a journey that I looked forward to every day from the first day of rehearsal. And I remember the first day of rehearsal, we had the meet and greet, and we have bagels and cream cheese, and Reggie Montgomery, there's a part.
You're going to tell that story. Great.
There's a part of the play, where, I have these different fathers for all the children. And at one point, I come to one of the fathers who's a preacher. I come to him and I ask him to give me some money for the kid. And so he insists that I, give him a blowjob. So at lunch, Reggie comes in and he says, Miss Woodard, I know how persnickety you are, but I just want you to know that I am uncircumcised. He said, we are not pulling any punches here. This is some serious off-Broadway, some serious Susan Lord Parks over bagels and cream cheese. And on the day, and I had told David Esbjornson that I will follow him into the dark, but that he has to protect me. I am going to follow you. David Esbjornson loves the dark. So he loves it. And I said, I'm going to follow you in there into the dark. And on the day, Reggie came in ready. And as it was just David, the stage manager, myself, and Reggie. And I could tell that he was ready, and it was happening, the zipper and everything. And I just said, okay. And then I saw that I needed to leave the room. And after about 10 minutes of hearing raging in the room, I came down. David Esbjornson came up and said, Charlayne, what's the matter? I said, I need you to, this is the theater, I told him. And the script says that I give him a blowjob. This is the theater, and it is our job to make everybody in the room know that I gave him a blowjob. Everyone must know it. Everyone must be as humiliated as I am. They must know that it happened. And your job is to make that happen without my having to do it. That's your job. And then we came back. I went back to rehearsal and we worked it out. And every night I could feel the audience cringing, and I loved it. And Susan Laurie had said, people just usually get up and walk out of my plays, Charlayne, and I was ready for folk to be walking out, but it didn't. It really didn't happen. They, especially by then, we're deep into it, and they're in it. Now they're in there. And of course, we had that brilliant set where we could see everybody in the house.
That was an unbelievable, magnificent show.
Experiences I've ever had in the theater.
Incredible show. I would love to talk about a little bit about Miss Vinette Carroll.
Oh,
And I would love for you to talk about the person that told you, when the heck will there be blood on the floor?
oh, okay.
You see, I did my research, ma'am.
You really did.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, when I was at the Goodman School of Drama, Vinette Carroll, this, the brilliant Vinette Carroll, the trailblazing Vinette Carroll, the director of a Broadway play, Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope, I think was the first one that she wrote with the fabulous Mickey Grant. And she came to my school as an artist in residence. And we worked on, she taught us emotional recall, all of these exercises, and then we did the Crucible. And the thing about Vinette is, when she casted, there are very few Black students in the school. And I just knew I was going to be Abigail. I knew it. And then when she casted, I was John Proctor's wife. So I went home. I looked for rehearsal garments. I came back the next day, and it was the first day of rehearsal. Nobody's in rehearsal garments but me, and I had a little New Testament in my hand. And we were all sitting there in the line. She's like, is everyone comfortable with their casting? Everyone shook their heads, She says, if you're not comfortable, you must speak now. This is what she said. And I said, I'm not comfortable. She says, you must speak up. I want to know what's going on because I sense something is wrong. And so I said, see, this is what Vinette taught me. Speak up. Say your piece, because once you do, you're going to be okay. But to hold it in, I was dying for 24 hours. And I told them that in this school, here you come, and I'm one of 3 Black students in here, and I want to be with you every minute of every day, of every rehearsal, and I really, really know from the exercises that I deserve to be Abigail. And that the young lady who has Abigail will always be able to play Abigail. She'll do anything in a laboratory situation, and I will never get the chance to play Abigail. And this is it. And you know that I need to benefit from the fact that you are here. Everybody was like, and then she says, okay, you're Abigail.
Ooh.
Just like that. That taught me right there. Speak up. Declare your truth. You might not get your way. I never expected to get my way, but I had to have my say. That comes from my grandmother.
Wow.
And I did things like that. I was in a laboratory situation in that school, and I did not mean I was not wasting one day of school. Because I knew that I was preparing to do this job. I had seen Cicely Tyson when I was, I didn't really know what I was going to do in my life for school. I thought I'd go to follow my girlfriend Gaydell and be a lawyer, go to Wellesley like she did, blah, blah. No, I saw this slender, dark, amazing actress with buck teeth. I had them too at that time. And I saw her do work that didn't look like she was acting at all. And there she was. And then I saw Hollywood bow down to her and call her stunning and phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And oh my goodness. To grow up with no role models, no one who looks like you doing anything that was great. And then to find that cemented it. That's what I was ready. That's what school meant to me. It wasn't just school, like I'll try this. No, I knew what I wanted to do. I had made my choices. And I had promised my parents, who did not pay for me to go to school. They said, we're not paying for you to get a Bachelor of Fine Arts in acting. What will you fall back on?
Wow.
And I told them, I am not falling. I am not falling. And that was an affirmation that I kept with me all through school. I am not falling. And that's what brought, I feel, the net to me. Because then that summer, she had me tour with Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope, got me my equity card, bam, bam, bam. I come to New York City. I can go to an open call for a Broadway show, Hair. And I got in there. And Hair led to this, and that led to that, and that led to that. But that whole thing with Cicely Tyson, and I love that she always chose really great characters to play. She had to balance things out, or, attempt to.
Most of us have a wonderful Cicely Tyson story that we've been inspired by. I have one, but I also have a Charlayne Woodard story. And that, yes, I remember being a little girl and hearing about a show that was coming on television that was going to take a show that that I only knew to be a white experience and turn it into, I'm going to give the clap.
I am too.
And turn it into a Black story. And to see this young Black girl be the princess and to have this hope and to manifest what she wanted and then something more.
Oh yeah. That I could not believe that happened like that. I was in the tribe of Hair, the revival. I'd just come to town. It's my first audition. 500 kids, all in the rain. And we all got, and I got in. And then Juliet Taylor, the casting director, I don't know how she did it, but she came to the show one night and just picked me out. I didn't even have an agent. I get a call that said, we want you to audition for this show called Cinderella. Written by, Jim Brooks and Stan Daniels and Ed Weinberger, and whom I call my fairy godfathers.
I bet.
Because they, and Donald McHale was the director and choreographer. And it was just, and then I asked Elena Reed, who was a friend, why don't you audition for my sister? My and then Nell wasn't telling anybody, she was like, because she's like, I just got it. I think I got a show. I think I had a good audition. She goes, you better cut it out. You better be quiet. Don't talk about it until you sign. But I claimed it from the first audition, like 3 auditions, and wow. And I loved the script. It was perfect for a church girl. It was perfect for a church. The only thing is I did lie and say I could jump double dutch. And on that day, it was tough. But it was like a dream come true. Right? Just be scooped up like that and to come to LA and I would have paid them to let me do that. And that's really, a couple of days later, when it showed, Richard Maltby's mom saw it and told him she should replace and be in the show. And that's how I got into Ain't. I mean, because the audition for Ain't, I certainly didn't put much thought into it because I didn't want to do a musical review. I wanted to do plays.
Right.
But then I had to say, when I wrote the play about Ain't Misbehaving in real life, I had to write about it because my start was crazy. And then I learned so much from those four amazing people, human beings. I learned to appreciate the people that sing 8 shows a week. Take
the discipline,
the toll on your body, and for a long time. I went to London with it for 6 months. We went to LA and San Francisco for 6 months, and I was 9 months on Broadway. But it's a Capricorn thing. But everything we get is an uphill climb. Mountain goats. And I was in a company of mountain goats. Nell Carter was the Virgo, and we were all used to it being tough. All of us. That's the thing we all had in common. Used to it not being easy. Used to fighting for everything we got.
And I listened to this great. If an audience gets an opportunity to listen to these two old friends, Tanya Pinkins and Charlayne, on You Can't Say That. You had some great stories about Ain't Misbehaving and about you had to really step it up, because if you didn't step up, someone was going to take your light, and somebody was going to take over that moment. And that there wasn't a moment on that stage where somebody wasn't looking, where somebody wasn't doing something extraordinary.
We were like a jazz improvisation. Mm-hmm. Really. You had to keep an eye out. You had to keep on it because, you would hear it and there it would be. And we were bouncing off of each other. It was like true tennis. And you had to be observant. There was not like sitting there waiting for your song to come. That never happened. When that intermission showed up, the three ladies would go off stage. We go off stage right, and lie on the ground so that the dressers on the floor, so the dressers would then unzip us so we could breathe before we even went up the stairs to our dressing room for intermission. That's what we had to do. There were points in the play at the end of the first act when we go, oh yeah, boom, and then we see stars, all of us. It's like, I'm seeing stars. We're about to find an intermission every night. Know. It was, and Andre would go, they're the stars. We would see them because we had finally bam, just stopped it.
Wow.
That play was something else. And working with them every night. It was, how they say every night, it has to be the first night. Well, in Ain't Misbehaving, for all five of us, that's how we hit every night. I got out of Ain't Misbehaving. I did 15 years of musicals after that because no one would let me do their words because they thought I was just a singer. I was a singer. Yeah, and back then you were singer or dancer or actor. Mm-hmm. You were not like the Hamilton folk, mm-hmm. And but. It was just an amazing thing. What was I saying?
About Ain't Misbehaving.
Yeah. I lost it.
And being either a singer, dancer, or actor as opposed to doing it all.
Or you couldn't get into to plays.
No. Oh, and the big dream was to actually get into the Negro Ensemble Company.
And they wouldn't even see you, am I right?
I could not get an audition. I could not get an audition for anything. And it was like, I don't believe this. I'm going to have to change the whole choreography. I'm going to have to go someplace where nobody knows me. Wow. I'm going to take every credit off of my resume. And I came to LA back in 1989 after we'd done the revival. And then I saved up that money. I could come to LA. And I came to do words. And I had a resume like this, and people thought, she's quite extraordinary. They had no idea how old I was. And how much experience I had under my belt because, I had that little resume. And, but I had to leave New York. And then when I came here and the world, the universe fixed it, God fixed it so that I wrote that play and I got it back to New York. And then that's when people said, all by herself, she can handle 2 hours. And I must say, ever since I took it into my own hands, and I say this to young people, actors, after a while, we get enough experience under our belts, and you can look around and say, what do I really want to do? Let me do it myself. And I knew I was a storyteller. I knew I came from storytellers. My grandparents really taught us through stories. They wouldn't say, don't do pot when you go to college. They would tell you a story about a girl who did do pot and what happened to her. And we'd be like, oh no, granddad, that'll never happen to me. No. But they would tell you these stories. When I came to LA and I'd go to dinner parties and things, people would say, oh, you should make a film out of that. Like, what do I know about film and the film world of people? But my grandmother was dying. Had died. My grandmother died, the soft one. The one who was responsible for me singing in the choir. I was devastated, and I said, okay. I just joined a big church, West Angeles Church of God in Christ. And I said, I'm going to go to the women's retreat. And I went to that women's retreat. 2 weeks before, the pastor's wife called and says, Charlayne, Bishop and we saw you on Broadway. We would like for you to prepare 30 minutes of song for the women at the retreat on the first night. I told her I cannot do that. I'm in mourning. I can't sing. I don't even sing like that, 30 minutes. She says, I'm sure you'll come up with something. That was May L. Blake. Changed my life. You see, I always say perfect relationships are now coming to me. And she did it. Because when she said that, I was like, what am I going to do? How can I sing? But I'll talk about grandmama. Because that's all that's on my head. That's all that she was on my heart. So I talked about my grandmother. I talked about how she tricked me into singing in that choir. And I told that story to 450 women who, oh my goodness, I was so nervous that first night because, first of all, I didn't know it was going to be 450 women in a big ballroom with circular tables. I thought it was going to be a retreat, like we normally would have back east in the woods somewhere. Cabin. We were at like the Marriott in Irvine. And it was major, and I was a little nervous. They put a mic on me. I mean, what church? It was a mega church. I wasn't aware of what kind of church Los Angeles was. And that night, I'm sitting at a table with a bunch of women that were also in the business. These women are now my prayer sisters. We've been together since that night, and I had to sing one of Grandmama's hymns just to make it to the stage. And by the time I was singing this song, a cappella, this hymn, and when I got up there, 450 women were singing my grandmother's song.
Oh, wow.
And so then we told it. We told the story, because I always say solo work is never alone.
Yes.
Solo work has to be between you and your scene partner, who is the audience. And there they all were. And we played tennis that night. And they stood and they had their napkins and they waved their napkins and they'd sit. They'd stand in silence, and then they laughed and laughed. I didn't know it was so funny, and they cried. It was unbelievable. It was just like, I'm going to add 4 more stories about my life, and this will be a play.
So it was born right there.
Right there. Right there. I never wanted to be a writer, even though in all the original plays I did, we were always able to contribute, things. And I've written songs for Liz Suedo's play, and, monologues for this Mark Shaman play, things like that. I'd add, I said, I have a monologue I could sing to do, but nothing like I never thought that I would actually then go through my journals and find companion stories. And that's how I came up with the first 12 years of my life. I will write about those stories. And I wanted people to know that I was a typical Black woman from a typical Black family. Because that's what those 450 women let me know. And that night, they all lined up to hug me. 450 women told me, thank you for telling our story. And the older one said, and now you have a new grandmother. That church turned my whole career around, And when I did that play, my Sunday school sold us out for the 4 weeks. People were trying to get in LA and could not. I had to mount a second production. And then I wrote to Esther Sherman, because I got a love letter of a review, thank God. And I said, Esther Sherman, who was she was the agent at William Morris for Ethel Fugard and John Patrick Shanley, two of my favorites. I told her, I faxed her the review, and I said, tell John Patrick Shanley and Ethel Fugard to move over. And guess what Esther did? 3 weeks later, she called and told me, I got you at Manhattan Theater Club in John Patrick Shanley and Ethel Fugard's room.
Wow.
Is that
unbelievable?
It pays to do all that work in New York City and have all those theater homes.
It sure does. Pays to fax.
She said, yeah. And she sent it to them. And then I was off and running. Yeah, no success comes without the help of other people.
Yes.
Nothing comes by yourself.
Charlayne, talk to me. I'm fascinated about this. When is there blood on the floor?
Oh. I'm writing a new play called The Garden. I'm about to go to Baltimore on Wednesday and start rehearsals. It's a 2-character play about a mother and a daughter. The mother's in her 80s, the daughter's in her 60s. They haven't spoken in 3 years. And the daughter shows up for okay, we have to talk. And Jeffrey Sweet said, 2 characters, Charlayne, that's the most difficult play you can write because you got to keep all those balls in the air, And I said, okay, good, that's a challenge. And I like a challenge. And then I have a dramaturg, I should say, a very good friend, Shirley Fishman, brilliant woman. She worked on, she worked on Come From Away. She worked on, at one point, Shirley had 2 Broadway shows that were all hits working on Broadway at the same time. The one directed by Rebecca Teichman and written by, the recent one about the 2 Jewish girls who fell in love and the company that they didn't want to work in America. It'll come to me, the name of it. But she's brilliant. And she takes no prisoners, by the way. And she said to me, she doesn't just say, the way she does things is, she's like Daniel Sullivan in that way. They ask a good question. Like, this is bothering me. And she said to me, Charlayne, this is after I'd done the workshop at Ojai and the workshop at Sundance. And she saw my rewrite. And she said, and I thought, done. And she said, when is there blood on the floor? And that let me know I hadn't finished. Not even close. And she has since corrected me and said George C. Wolfe asked her, when is there has to be blood on the floor. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of theater we like.
Right.
So I had to go back. And even now, I'm still rewriting, and I have to send that script off to them because we have to start rehearsal. I'm doing it with Charlayne Clay. I'm playing the daughter, and she's playing the mom. I wanted to write a play for 2 women of a certain age who are Black, because they're leading roles. And I have been very fortunate enough to be cast in a lot of leading roles, but most of us are not. After a certain point, we just come on and we're supporting and we're featured. And but what about the role that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, an arc? You live through something all night long. I love that feeling. You know, that big swan dive we take into the material, and it surprises us from time to time. I love that. I live for that. So I get it when I do my solo work, and I get it when people hire me to do, you know, these roles. But so I wrote The Garden so that other women will have that feeling, and not just when we were young, but when we really had the stuff to do it.
I can't wait to see that. The other show you were talking about was Indecent. Indecent, right? By Paula Vogel. Yeah.
Oh, Paula Vogel. Yeah, that was beautiful. Well, Shirley worked with them on that one.
You know, we have artists, I've heard you say this, have a responsibility to tell the story of the zeitgeist, right?
That's right. That's right. That's why I taught that.
And can you explain to our listeners and our students the zeitgeist and how it adheres to the theater?
Well, for me, the zeitgeist is the atmosphere of what is happening. That what is happening right now, what is going on. And artists have always told the story of our country, of our people. I mean, remember when there was the civil rights movement as well as the Vietnam anti-war movement? What were the songs that came out of that? What were the plays that came out of that? What we tell the story because our work is a reflection of what's going on. And I just want to remind young people that we have the responsibility to share what's happening. We don't have the luxury of turning off. We don't have the luxury of just sitting back and reading books throughout the pandemic. I mean, I read a lot of books throughout this pandemic, but I don't have the luxury of just doing that because I have to put something down. I have to create something, a song, a poem, a play, a quilt, and leave it here so that 100 years from now, they can look back and say, that's the truth of the moment. And it also helps us to get through the trauma of it all. It helps us, you know, when we join in, when we protest. And there are loads of ways of protesting. We don't have to just protest in the streets. Lately, that's become a very dangerous thing in America. Can you believe it?
No. It's unbelievable. Joy, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I want to skip forward to where we are now, where you are now, how you've gone from my first memory of you being Cindy, to now on Pose. What? Tell us about that experience and now being a part of something else that will live in pop culture forever, like another piece that has made a huge impact on the lives of people.
Well, Pose. That show. It's so important.
Miss Helena St. Rogers, yes, ma'am.
So important that show, because you know there are people in this country that everyone wants to ignore, or everyone wants to control, or everyone wants to, and you can't deny a person who they are. You know, and what I love about Pose is that, first of all, 90% of my cast had never gone before a camera. And Ryan Murphy said yes to Stephen Cannell's script. 166, I think he had 166 rejections before it got to the producer, Ryan Murphy? And they said yes. And I remember I was doing Glass. It was my last day of filming Glass in Philadelphia. And I was in a warming room with Sarah Paulson. And she says, "Where's your phone?" I said, I don't bring it on set. "Oh, you better go get her phone," she said to one of the PAs. "Go get her phone. She needs her phone." I had no idea. But you see, Sarah is good friends with Ryan Murphy, of course. So she knew what was coming and I didn't. And they brought me my phone and my phone was blowing up. And my agent was telling me that, you've been offered a role, a TV series. You're a regular. Now, I came to LA in 1990 for just that and only got it when they called for Pose. I've done loads of, those pilots that didn't go, but this was amazing. They said, "You have to do this NDA. We can't tell you what it is. Can you do it or not?" I don't even know what it is. But I knew who was involved. And I knew if he was involved. And Sarah's sitting there just like loving it. I didn't even know. I had to go out and do a very serious scene. I think Sam Jackson was dying that day. I played his mother, and I've got that makeup on. I was just like so crazy. And so when I got to the hotel that night, I had to close down the apartment and everything, but there was a man sitting there in the lobby to hand deliver the script to me. And I read it on the Acela on my way to New York. Because without knowing anything, I just said, yes, I'll do it. And I had to start work the next day. I had a fitting the next day.
Wow.
And then I get to the set. I wanted to meet, Ryan Murphy really wanted to meet me. And I get on the set and there is my little Ryan who plays Damon. He's there. He says, "I just saw you in DC at a show. And you said to me, we'll work together one day."
Wow.
When we saw each other, we hugged for the longest time. When we pulled back, we had tears. And I thought, how synchronistic is this? He came to the show with a lot of Howard students. And I spoke to them after. But Pose is very important. And to have, I think, was it 5 or 6 trans actresses as leads. And they told their story. I thought it was the most courageous thing on television. They told their stories and lived them for us all. And every day on the set, I counted it a blessing. The set was, and you talk about diversity, inclusion. I want you to know we had maybe 50 PAs who were all LGBTQ. And one day I looked up and there was the whole camera crew, women. I mean, it felt so different on that set. And then after one day we were shooting, and I think it was Memorial Day, and then they said, "Let's all just go to that little cantina down the way and sit outside and have dinner." And we all did. Everybody's drivers had to wait and everything, but we were just like, it was wonderful. And it really was family. And it really was, it was very deep,
Your relationship with Damon and your relationship with MJ is magnificent on the show, and it is beautiful to watch. This hour has gone by so quickly. I wish we could talk for another 2 hours, but I think I speak for.
I'm a talker. I talk too much.
Oh no! I'm gonna call you right after this and finish. So, I think I speak for Joy when I say that you are you're a magnificent artist, playwright, activist. We're so in awe of you and what you do, and inspire me to get up every day and keep doing art and keep listening and keep doing and keep creating conversations around what we do.
Yes.
So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, from, a little white boy watching Cindy and connecting to it, to
You watched it too.
of course I did, to Pose and everything in between. So that's our show for the evening, and I really want to thank you. Joy, you want to say something quick?
Just thank you. Keep rising. I can't wait to see what's next for you. I'm so inspired and in awe of your talent, and just keep being Charlayne Woodard.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I really had fun talking to y'all.
Me too.
Yes.
Well, I hope you'll come back and we could do part 2.
Well,
Tanya got a part 2, so I'm gonna get a part 2 as well.
Oh, the shade.
No shade on Tanya.
Don't
say that out loud, please.
Talking about the decades in the theater. It was.
That's true.
Afterwards, I was like, what did we say?
No, you got to listen to it, ladies and gentlemen. You got to listen to this.
Listen to it, both parts.
It's a great interview.
But right after it was crazy. We were like, what did we just do?
Oh, it was great. It's beautiful. It's on the Broadway Podcast Network, and it's it's Tanya Pinkins. It's called You Can't Say That, and it's brilliant. And that's our show. Miss Charlayne Woodard, thank you for your incredible life and your journey, and our audience. And thank you, my bestie, for hosting with me tonight. I
love you.
You're my heart. Next Monday, May 10th, John Andrew Morrison and I will have the rare privilege to speak with Tony Award-winning playwright David Henry Wong. His plays include the plays And Butterfly, Chinglish, Yellowface, Golden Child, The Dance, and The Railroad, and FOB. We will talk about his playwriting, teaching, and views on the future of theater in New York. Then on Monday, May 17th, Joy and I will talk with the incredible Ann James. Regular listeners will have heard Ann co-hosting with me, but we will spend some time learning about this fascinating woman. Ann is the theater educator, stage director, and an intimacy choreographer, which is something you probably needed with Reggie a long time ago, right? And she is devoted to making both stage and screen safer places for Black, Indigenous, and people of color to practice their craft. We hope you enjoyed our show. If you did, please take a moment and press the like button and subscribe. For news about upcoming guests, check out our website, liveatlortel.com. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. We will see you Monday at 7 o'clock. Stay healthy, wear a mask, and get the vaccine. We thank you for joining us. God bless you, Charlayne Woodard. Watch the 3rd season of Pose. I hope to see you on there. I will talk. Oh, fuck. Anyway, have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk to you soon.
Watch it anyway.
Yeah, watch it anyway. Yeah.